Do you really want to keep living in this old house? My son was trying to convince me to sell the home I inherited from my husband, but as soon as he had to move out, I went to dig up the flower bed in the backyard, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. But let's go back to the beginning. Let's go back to that moment when everything started to fall apart. Jason was standing in the middle of the living room, his arms crossed, wearing that look of impatience that hurt me so much to recognize. Caroline, his wife, was leaning against the wall with a barely concealed smirk on her lips. They had come over, like every week, for the same conversation, the same pressure. Mom, you have to be realistic. Jason paced from one side of the room to the other, as if he were giving a lecture. This property isn't worth anything anymore. The neighborhood is going downhill, the house is falling apart, and you're here all alone. It's dangerous and absurd. My hands shook slightly as I held the cup of tea that was growing cold between my fingers. 71 years of life, and my own son was talking to me as if I were a senile old woman incapable of making decisions. Jason, this is the house your father Arthur and I built together. You were born here, you grew up here, all our memories are here. Dad died 3 years ago. Mom, he interrupted me with that coldness he had perfected over the last few months. It is time you got over that and thought about the future. Caroline and I found a very nice assisted living facility near the city. It has gardens, nurses on staff, 24/7. I am not going to any nursing home. My voice came out steadier than I expected. Caroline let out a dry laugh. Margaret, don't be stubborn. What are you going to do here? Clean this huge house all by yourself? Pay the property taxes with your miserable Social Security check? Every word was a stone thrown against my dignity, but what hurt the most was seeing Jason nod along with every insult from his wife. My son, the boy I had raised with so much love. The son Arthur adored with every fiber of his being. The house is in my name, I said quietly, almost in a whisper. Exactly. Jason took a step forward, and for the first time, I noticed something different in his eyes. Something that scared me, and that is exactly why you can sell it. We would help you with all the paperwork. In fact, I already spoke to a realtor. He says we could get about $200,000, maybe $250,000 if we're lucky. $200,000. That was what a lifetime of memories, sacrifices, and love was worth to them. A figure, a number in a bank account. And that money would be enough to pay for the facility for several years and… Caroline paused calculatedly, her eyes shining with greed, so that Jason and I can finally buy our own condo. We have been waiting for years. Margaret, years of sacrificing. Sacrificing? Them? I had to bite my tongue not to scream. I had to dig my nails into the palms of my hands not to stand up and tell them everything I was thinking. I am not selling Arthur's house, I repeated, this time with more firmness. This house is everything I have left of him. Jason sighed with exasperation and ran a hand through his hair. It was a gesture Arthur used to make when he was frustrated. Seeing that movement in my son broke my heart a little more, because in that gesture, I saw the man I loved for 45 years. But in Jason's eyes, I only saw impatience and greed. Mom, you are being selfish. Think about us too. We are 38 years old and we are still renting. Do you know how embarrassing that is? All our friends already have properties, new cars, stable lives, and here we are, stuck, because you are clinging to this useless relic. Nobody asked you to stay stuck. The words left my mouth before I could stop them. Caroline's face hardened immediately. She pushed herself off the wall and walked toward me with slow, deliberate steps. She stopped right in front of my chair, looking down at me with contempt. How dare you? After everything we have done for you, who do you think brings you groceries every week? Who drives you to the doctor? Who puts up with your constant complaints and negativity? I never asked you to. You didn't have to ask. Jason raised his voice for the first time that afternoon. We are your family. Your only family. And this is how you repay us. With stubbornness and selfishness. Do you know how many hours we waste every week coming here? How much money we spend on gas? How many opportunities we have let pass by because we have to keep an eye on you? I stayed silent, because he was right about something. They were my only family. Or so I thought. After Arthur died 3 years ago, Jason and Caroline were all I had left in this world. And perhaps that is why I had put up with so much. Perhaps that is why I had allowed them to talk to me like that, to treat me as if I were a burden, a dead weight they carried out of obligation. Think about it carefully, Mom. Jason softened his tone slightly, as if he were making a superhuman effort to be patient with me. In the facility, you would be taken care of. You would have company, activities. Here you are just existing, looking at old photos, waiting for something bad to happen. What happens if you fall and there is nobody to help you? If you have a heart attack in the middle of the night? Your father loved this house, I whispered, feeling the tears starting to sting my eyes. He worked his whole life too. My father is dead, Mom. Jason pronounced every word slowly, as if I were too stupid to understand simple concepts. And the dead do not need houses, the living do. We do. Caroline walked over and put a hand on Jason's shoulder, a gesture of marital solidarity that left me even more isolated. It was the two of them against me. It had always been like that since they got married 10 years ago. Margaret, we just want what is best for everyone. For you, for us, for the future of this family. Can't you see that? Can't you understand that this is the most sensible thing to do? What I saw was very different. I saw the greed in Caroline's eyes. I saw Jason's impatience. I saw how they looked at me, not as a mother, not as a person with feelings and rights, but as an obstacle between them and the money they craved so much. I need time to think, I said finally, lowering my gaze toward my cup of cold tea. Jason huffed with frustration. Time? Mom, you have been clinging to this decision for 3 years. How much more time do you need? Another 3 years? 10? We have a life too, you know? Just leave me alone, please. My voice cracked slightly on that last word. There was a tense and heavy silence that filled the entire living room. I could feel their eyes fixed on me, judging me, pressuring me, evaluating every gesture of mine as if it were evidence of my mental incapacity. Finally, I heard Jason's footsteps heading toward the door. Heavy steps, full of contained frustration. Fine. Think about it. But we don't have all the time in the world. Mom, the realtor can only hold the offer for 2 more weeks. After that, who knows how much we could get, or if we will get anything at all. Old properties like this lose value every day. Caroline followed him, but before leaving she turned toward me with that cold smile I had come to hate so much. 2 weeks. Margaret, think hard, because afterwards, don't come crying when you are alone and sick with no one to help you. We have limits too. The door closed with a dry thud that echoed through the entire empty house. I remained seated in that chair, with the cold cup between my trembling hands, feeling the tears finally rolling down my cheeks. How had it come to this? How had my son, the boy I had carried in my arms, whom I had comforted in his nightmares, whom I had applauded for every achievement, turned into this stranger who treated me like garbage? I stood up slowly and walked toward the window. From there, I could see the backyard, the garden Arthur had tended with so much love, the flower bed where he used to plant roses every spring. Everything was overgrown now, covered in weeds and oblivion. But I knew something Jason didn't know, something Caroline would never imagine. Arthur had left me a secret I had kept during these 3 years, waiting for the right moment. When it is necessary, my love, Arthur had told me in his final days, with that weak but firm voice, dig in the back flower bed, underneath where the white roses used to be. There you will find what you need. But only when it is absolutely necessary. Promise me. And I had promised him. I had kept that secret like a treasure, without fully understanding what it meant, but trusting my husband's wisdom. The following days were a calculated hell. Jason called every morning. Have you thought about it, Mom? I need more time. Time is running out. The agent is pressuring us. There are other interested buyers for properties in the area. Lies. It was all lies, but he didn't know that I knew. Or maybe he did know and simply didn't care. Caroline started being even more direct. One afternoon, she showed up with brochures for nursing homes. Look at this one, Margaret. It has private rooms with private baths, 3 meals a day, recreational activities. And it only costs $5,000 a month. With the $200,000 from the house, you could be there for a few years without worrying. And after 3 years? I asked, although I already knew the answer. Caroline shrugged. Well, by then you will be 74 years old. Who knows what could happen? The important thing is the present. No, who knows what could happen? An elegant way of saying they expected me to die before the money ran out. A cruel way of saying they didn't plan to take care of me ever. Besides, Caroline continued, leafing through the brochures with feigned interest, we would be close by. We could visit you on Sundays. Well, when we don't have other commitments, it would be perfect for everyone. Visiting me on Sundays. As if I were a pet in a shelter. As if 71 years of life were reduced to Sunday visits conditioned on their availability. A week after that first conversation, Jason arrived with papers. Legal documents he had prepared without my consent. I just need you to sign here. Mom, it is a temporary power of attorney. You authorize me to handle the sale in your name. That way you don't have to worry about any of the process. I will take care of everything. I looked at the papers without touching them, as if they were poison. A power of attorney. It is normal in these cases. You are getting older. These procedures are complicated, stressful. Let me help you. Trust me. I am your son. I am your son. Those words that once would have melted my heart now sounded hollow, manipulative. One more tool in his arsenal of psychological pressure. I am not signing anything. Jason's face hardened. He slammed the papers down on the table. You know what, Mom? I am tired. Tired of your stubbornness. Tired of wasting my time coming here every week. Tired of being the perfect son who worries about his mother when clearly you don't appreciate anything I do. Jason, I never said that. You don't have to say it. It shows. It shows in every rejection, in every excuse, in every time you look at me as if I were the bad guy in this story. You know what? Maybe I should leave you here alone. Let you figure it out yourself. Let's see how long you last without my help. He left, slamming the door so hard it made the window frames shake. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something different besides pain. I felt rage. Pure, burning rage. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything. About how I had raised Jason alone for years while Arthur worked double shifts to give us a decent life. About how I had given up my own dreams to ensure he had the best opportunities. About how I had saved every penny to pay for the private university he wanted so much. And this is how he repaid me. With threats, with manipulation, with shouting. The next morning, Jason didn't call, nor the next day. He spent a whole week in silence. A week where I received not a call, not a text. It was his way of punishing me. Of making me feel the weight of my loneliness, of proving to me that without him, I was nothing. But what Jason didn't understand was that solitude isn't always a punishment. Sometimes it is clarity. Sometimes it is peace. Sometimes it is the space you need to see things as they really are. It was during that week of silence that I made a decision, when I remembered Arthur's words, when it is absolutely necessary. This was that moment. One morning, just as the sun began to warm the backyard, I went out with an old shovel I found in the shed. My hands were no longer as strong as before. My back protested with every movement, but there was a determination in me I hadn't felt in years. I walked toward the back flower bed, toward where the white roses Arthur planted every year used to be. The place was covered in weeds now, forgotten, like so many other things in my life. I knelt on the damp earth, and I began to dig. At first, there was nothing, just dirt, small stones, dry roots. My arms began to ache, sweat ran down my forehead. But I kept digging, because I trusted Arthur, because he had never failed me in life, and I knew he wouldn't fail me in death. And then, about 20 inches deep, my shovel hit something solid, something that wasn't a stone, something that sounded different. With trembling hands, I brushed away the dirt, and there it was. A metal box, rusted by the years underground, but sealed perfectly. I pulled it out with effort and placed it on the grass. My heart was beating so fast I could hear it in my ears. With fingers clumsy from emotion and nerves, I forced the lid until it gave way. And what I saw inside took my breath away. Stacks of bills. Hundreds of $100 bills, perfectly preserved in sealed plastic bags. But that wasn't all. There were documents, deeds, certificates, and a letter with my name written in Arthur's unmistakable handwriting. With shaking hands, I opened the envelope. Tears began to fall before I finished reading the first line. My beloved Margaret, if you are reading this, it means you have needed me, and it means that likely our son did not turn out to be the man we hoped to raise. The tears fell onto the paper, slightly blurring the ink, but I continued reading with a broken heart. For years I saved in secret. My love, every extra job, every additional hour, every sacrifice I made wasn't just to give you a comfortable life. It was to protect you, because I always had a fear deep in my heart. A fear that Jason, our son, might not value everything we did for him. I stopped for a moment, wiping my tears with the back of my dirt-stained hand. Here is $50,000 in cash. It is all I could save without anyone knowing. But that isn't the most important thing. Margaret, the documents you will find in this box are your true protection. The deed to the house is in your name, but there is a clause that no one knows except me and the lawyer. A clause that prevents the property from being sold or transferred without the approval of a specific witness. That witness is Gregory Miller. His card is in this box. I searched through the documents with trembling hands until I found a professional card. Gregory Miller, attorney at law, specialist in family law and estate planning. Gregory has very clear instructions. My love, he knows everything. He knows about Jason. He knows about our fears. And he has additional documents that may be useful to you if things get difficult. Go see him. Trust him, as I trusted him for years. The letter continued, but I had to stop because the sobs were choking me. Arthur had known. Somehow, my husband had seen something in Jason that I had refused to accept, and he had protected me from the grave. You will also find the deeds to 2 small properties I bought years ago as an investment. They are in a neighborhood that is now under development. They are worth much more than what I paid for them. They are yours, Margaret. Completely yours. Jason does not know of their existence and has no right over them. I searched frantically through the papers until I found the deeds. 2 small condos in the north side of the city. I recognized the address. It was an area that in recent years had appreciated enormously in value. And now comes the hardest part, my love. The part that hurt me the most to keep secret all these years. Jason is not our biological son. The world stopped turning. I read that sentence 1, 2, 3 times, unable to process it. We adopted him when he was 6 months old. You couldn't have children. The doctors were clear, and that devastated us both. But when we saw that baby at the orphanage, when you held him in your arms for the first time, I knew he was our son, not by blood, but by love. Tears were falling uncontrollably now. I remembered that day. I remembered perfectly how I had felt holding Jason for the first time, as if my life finally made sense. I never told you because it didn't matter. To me, Jason was my son in every sense. But I kept the adoption papers in case one day this was necessary. If Jason is trying to take the house from you, if he is being cruel to you, these documents can make him understand that he has no automatic right to anything, that everything he has was due to our love and generosity, not by legal obligation of blood. I found the sealed folder with the adoption documents. Everything was there. Official certificates, signatures, seals. It was real. Jason wasn't our biological son. Don't use this to hurt him, my love. Use it only to protect yourself. Because you gave him the life he has. You gave him love when no one else would. And if he cannot value that, then he needs to learn a lesson. But do it with love. Always with love. The letter ended with the words Arthur always said to me before sleeping. I love you beyond this life and any other that may exist. Protect yourself, my Margaret, because you also deserve to be happy. With all my heart, Arthur. I sat on the grass, surrounded by dirt and papers, crying like I hadn't cried since my husband's funeral. But these tears were different. They weren't just of sadness. They were of gratitude, of rage, of confusion, of determination. Arthur had left me the tools. Now it was up to me to use them. I packed everything carefully back into the metal box and took it to my bedroom. I hid it in the back of my closet, behind the old blankets that no one checked. Then I showered, changed my clothes, and took Gregory Miller's card. It was time to take control of my own life. Gregory Miller's office was downtown, in an old but well-maintained building. I walked up the stairs slowly, my legs protesting with every step. The receptionist welcomed me with a kind smile. "I am here to see Mr. Miller. My name is Margaret Rosales." The receptionist's expression changed immediately. Recognition, almost as if she had been waiting for me. "Of course, Mrs. Rosales. Mr. Miller has been expecting your visit. Let me let him know." Expecting my visit? For 3 years? A minute later, a man of about 60, with perfectly combed gray hair and an impeccable suit, came out of his office. His eyes moistened slightly upon seeing me. "Mrs. Rosales. Finally. Please, come in." He led me to his office, a warm space full of books and diplomas on the walls. He offered me a seat and sat opposite me, hands clasped on the desk. "Arthur was my best friend," he began without preamble. "We studied together, grew up together, were best men at our weddings, and he made me promise I would take care of you if anything happened to him. He made me promise I would wait for you to come when you were ready." "I found the box," I said simply. Gregory nodded. "Then it means things with Jason have gotten difficult. He wants me to sell the house. He pressures me every day. He treats me as if I were a burden, as if I had no right to decide about my own life." Gregory sighed deeply and opened a drawer in his desk. He took out a thick folder with my name written on the label. "Arthur left me very specific instructions. This folder contains everything you need to protect yourself legally. First, the deed to your house has a special clause. Jason cannot force a sale. He cannot initiate any legal process to take the property from you. And if he tries, he will face charges for coercion." I felt like a huge weight was lifted from my shoulders. Second, the 2 additional properties Arthur bought are generating rent. We have been managing them these 3 years. The tenants pay on time. That means you have an additional income of approximately $3,000 a month that Jason is completely unaware of. $3,000 a month. I couldn't believe it. Exactly. Arthur was very smart with his investments. Those properties are now worth approximately $300,000 each. If you decided to sell them, you would have over $600,000. But my recommendation is to keep them because the monthly income gives you independence. $600,000. Jason was pressuring me to sell my house for $200,000 when I had properties worth 3 times that. And third, Gregory took out another document. Here are Jason's adoption papers. Arthur instructed me to explain something very important to you. Jason has no automatic rights to your inheritance. Legally, you can disinherit him if you consider his behavior warrants it. I don't want to disinherit him. The words came out automatically. I just want him to respect me. I understand. But it is important that you know you have that power, that he has no control over you. Gregory leaned back in his chair, studying me with a look that mixed compassion and determination. "Mrs. Rosales, I need you to understand something. Arthur didn't prepare all this because he wanted you to take revenge on Jason. He did it because he knew you are too good, too generous. He knew you would allow yourself to be trampled on before defending yourself, and that terrified him. His words hit me like a punch to the stomach because they were true. My whole life had been like that, giving, sacrificing, putting others first. What do you advise me to do?" I asked, with a trembling voice. "For now, nothing. Let Jason keep pressuring. Let him show his true face. In the meantime, I will prepare all the necessary documentation. If he tries anything legal, we will be ready. And when the time is right, when he has crossed the line definitively, then we will act." "And when will that moment be?" Gregory smiled sadly. "You will know. Believe me, you will know." I left that office feeling different, stronger. For the first time in 3 years, I felt I had control of my own life. Arthur had left me not only money, but power. The power to decide, the power to say no, the power to protect myself. The following days were strangely peaceful. Jason didn't call. It was as if he had decided silence was his best weapon. As if he believed that eventually I would give in out of desperation, out of loneliness, out of fear. But something had changed in me. I no longer looked at the phone waiting for his call. I no longer jumped every time the doorbell rang thinking it might be him. I slept better. I ate better. I had even started cleaning up the garden, pulling weeds, planting new flowers in the flower bed where my future had been buried. It was exactly 2 weeks later when Jason finally showed up. This time he didn't come alone. Caroline was with him. And they also brought someone else, a man in a cheap suit with a worn leather briefcase. "Mom, this is Mr. Brad Thompson. He is the real estate agent I told you about." Jason didn't even greet me. He walked straight into my house as if it were his. Brad extended his hand with a professional smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Mrs. Rosales, it is a pleasure. I have been reviewing your property and I have excellent news. I found a buyer who is willing to pay $220,000. Cash. No complications. I have not authorized you to appraise my property," I said firmly, ignoring his extended hand. Brad's smile faltered slightly. "Well, your son gave me access to do a preliminary assessment. It is standard procedure." "When?" "My son does not have authorization to grant access to my property." Jason let out a nervous laugh. "Mom, don't start with the drama. Brad is just trying to help us. The offer is good, better than we expected. Honestly, I am not selling." There was a tense silence. Brad looked at Jason with discomfort, clearly feeling he had been dragged into a family drama that wasn't his business. "Mrs. Rosales," Brad tried again. "I understand this house has sentimental value, but you have to be practical. The market isn't going to get better. This area is in decline. In a couple of years, you might not even get $150,000 for this property. Then I suppose in a couple of years I will be worth $50,000 less," I replied with a calm that surprised even myself. Caroline exploded. "See? Do you see how impossible it is? I told you, Jason, your mother is completely senile. She cannot make rational decisions. Watch what you say, Caroline." My voice came out cold, cutting. "I am not senile. I am perfectly capable of making my own decisions. And my decision is that all of you get out of my house. Now. This is my house too." Jason took a step toward me. "I grew up here. I have as much right as you to decide what happens to it." "No, you don't." I took my cell phone out of my pocket. "And if you don't leave right now, I will call the police for trespassing on private property." Brad was the first to react. I think it is best if I go. Clearly, there are family matters to resolve first." "Jason, I'll be in touch later." He practically ran out. Jason looked at me with a mixture of shock and anger I had never seen in his eyes before. "What is wrong with you, Mom? Who do you think you are? I am the owner of this house, and you are no longer welcome here." Caroline laughed bitterly. Perfect. Stay here in your precious house. But don't expect us to come running when you fall down the stairs or when you are sick and alone without anyone to help you. It's over. We are fed up. That is fine," I said simply. And those 3 words seemed to throw Jason off more than any scream could have. "That is fine? Just like that? After everything we have done for you, you are throwing us out like that." "I am not throwing you out. You are leaving on your own, as you have threatened to do a dozen times. The difference is that now I am not going to beg you to stay." Jason opened his mouth to respond, but Caroline pulled him by the arm. "Let's go. Jason, it's not worth it. Let her rot here alone. She'll see when she needs something and has no one." I watched them go. I watched the door close behind them. And for the first time in months, I breathed freely. But I knew this wasn't over. I knew Jason. I knew his pride, his stubbornness. He wouldn't accept this defeat so easily. I was right. 3 days later, I received a certified letter, a legal letter. Jason was initiating conservatorship proceedings. He alleged that I was not in my right mind to manage my properties, that I needed a legal guardian, and he, as my only son, offered himself as that guardian. When I read that letter, something inside me broke definitively. It wasn't sadness I felt, it was absolute clarity. Jason didn't see me as his mother. He saw me as an obstacle, as a problem to solve, as something to manage and control. I called Gregory immediately. The conservatorship papers arrived. I told him without preamble. "I expected this." Gregory responded with a serious voice. "Jason is following exactly the pattern Arthur feared. Are you ready to fight back?" "Yes, I am ready." "Good. We need to document that you are perfectly lucid and capable. I will schedule full medical evaluations, psychological, neurological, everything. And when Jason presents his case before the judge, we will present irrefutable evidence that you are in full command of your faculties. Furthermore, we will present evidence of coercion and manipulation on his part. What kind of evidence? Do you have recordings of your conversations? Text messages? Emails? I thought about all the calls, the insistent messages, the increasingly aggressive visits. I have some messages. Perfect. Save them all. And from now on, every time Jason communicates with you, record it. Every call, every visit, everything. Under one-party consent laws, you are within your rights in your own home, of course. We need to build a case that shows the pattern of harassment. Over the next 2 weeks, I submitted to all the evaluations Gregory scheduled. Doctors, psychologists, geriatric specialists, everyone came to the same conclusion. I was perfectly healthy mentally and physically for my age. No signs of dementia, no cognitive decline, nothing that justified a conservatorship. Meanwhile, Jason intensified his campaign. He started calling neighbors, acquaintances, asking if they had noticed anything strange in my behavior, trying to build testimonies to back him up. But the neighbors knew me. They had seen me working in the garden. They had seen me go to the market. They had seen me live my life normally. And several of them called to warn me what Jason was doing. Mrs. Rosales, my neighbor Susan, told me, "Your son came asking if I had seen you go out in your pajamas or talking to yourself." I told him I have never seen any of that. I don't know what he is planning, but be careful. Thank you, Susan. I will be. The day of the hearing arrived faster than I expected. I dressed in my best clothes, a simple but elegant dress Arthur had bought me years ago. I did my hair carefully. I applied makeup subtly. I wanted the judge to see me for what I was, a 71-year-old woman, perfectly capable of handling her own life. Gregory picked me up early in the morning. In the car, we went over everything one last time. Jason will likely bring witnesses. Maybe some doctors he consulted without your knowledge. Maybe statements from Caroline. Be prepared to hear hard things. Lies disguised as concern. I am ready. And I was. Or so I thought. We entered the courtroom. It was smaller than I had imagined, less intimidating. Jason was already there, sitting next to a nervous-looking young lawyer. Caroline was in the room behind him, dressed in expensive clothes I recognized as new. Clearly, they were already spending the money they expected to get from my house. When Jason saw me enter on Gregory's arm, his expression changed. Surprise, then confusion, then something resembling fear. He didn't expect me to arrive with legal representation. He had assumed I would come alone, vulnerable, easy to manipulate in front of the judge. The judge entered, and we all stood up. She was a woman of about 50, with a serious but not severe expression. She sat down and reviewed the documents in front of her for what seemed like an eternity. "All right," she said finally. "We are here for the petition of Mr. Jason Rosales to establish a conservatorship over his mother, Mrs. Margaret Rosales, for alleged mental incapacity to handle her affairs. Mr. Rosales, present your case." Jason's lawyer stood up, clearing his throat nervously. "Your Honor, my client is deeply concerned for his mother's well-being. Mrs. Margaret Rosales is 71 years old and lives alone in a large and neglected house. She has rejected reasonable offers to move to a safer place. She has shown erratic and irrational behavior. She refuses to accept family help. We believe she is not in a condition to make important decisions about her estate and well-being." "Do you have proof of this erratic behavior?" asked the judge. "We have the testimony of my client and his wife, who have been direct witnesses to Mrs. Rosales's mental confusion. We also have statements that she refuses medical treatment and basic assistance. It was all lies. Lies carefully crafted to sound like legitimate concern." The judge turned toward me. "Mrs. Rosales, do you have legal representation?" Gregory stood up. "Yes, Your Honor. Gregory Miller, representing Mrs. Margaret Rosales." Jason's expression was pure shock. He looked at his lawyer with barely concealed panic. "Go ahead, Mr. Miller." Gregory took out a thick folder. "Your Honor, Mr. Jason Rosales' petition not only lacks merit, but is part of a pattern of coercion and financial manipulation. I present full medical evaluations of Mrs. Rosales, conducted by 3 independent specialists in the last 2 weeks. All conclude that she is in full command of her mental faculties. He passed the documents to the judge, who began to review them attentively. Furthermore, Gregory continued, I have evidence that Mr. Jason Rosales has been pressuring his mother to sell her property against her will. I have recordings of conversations, text messages, and neighbor testimonies confirming a pattern of harassment. Recordings. Jason's lawyer stood up. Your Honor, those recordings might be inadmissible. They were made with full knowledge and consent of Mrs. Rosales in her own home, interrupted Gregory. They are completely legal. Do you wish to hear them? The judge nodded. Gregory connected a small audio player, and then Jason's voice filled the room. Mom, you are being selfish. You have to sell. This house isn't worth anything, and you here alone are a burden to everyone. Caroline's voice followed. What retirement are you talking about? You don't even have a decent pension. You should be grateful Jason still bothers to visit you. There was more. Fragments of conversations where Jason threatened to abandon me, where Caroline insulted me openly, where both pressured me, manipulated me, treated me like trash. I watched Jason's face turn paler and paler. I watched Caroline sink into her seat, trying to become invisible. When the recordings ended, the silence in the room was absolute. Your Honor, Gregory continued with a firm voice, this isn't a son concerned about his mother. This is an attempt at fraud and misappropriation. Mr. Jason Rosales is not looking to protect his mother. He is looking to control her assets. That isn't true. Jason finally found his voice, standing up abruptly. I only want what is best for her. She is alone. She is old. She needs care. Mr. Rosales, sit down. The judge's voice was sharp. Jason obeyed, but I could see his hands shaking. The judge looked directly at me. Mrs. Rosales, do you wish to say something? I stood up slowly. All eyes were on me. I took a deep breath. Your Honor, I loved Jason from the moment I held him in my arms for the first time. It didn't matter that he wasn't of my blood. He was my son. I raised him, fed him, sacrificed my dreams for him. I paid for the best education we could afford. I gave him everything I had. I saw Jason look down, but somewhere along the way, Jason stopped seeing me as his mother. He started seeing me as a source of money, as a problem to solve. And that broke my heart more than any illness could. My voice cracked slightly, but I continued. I am not crazy. I am not senile. I am just a woman refusing to be stripped of the only thing she has left of her late husband. And if that makes me guilty, then guilty as charged. The judge nodded slowly and went back to reviewing the documents in front of her. I have reviewed the medical evaluations. I have listened to the recordings. I have seen the evidence presented by both parties. She paused. The petition for conservatorship is denied. Mrs. Margaret Rosales is clearly in full command of her mental faculties and has every right to make her own decisions regarding her estate. I felt my legs almost give way with relief. Furthermore, continued the judge with a severe tone, the recordings presented show a troubling pattern of family coercion. Mr. Jason Rosales, be warned that any further attempt to pressure, threaten, or manipulate your mother could result in criminal charges. Is that clear? Yes, Your Honor. Jason could barely whisper the words. Case closed. The strike of the gavel resonated in the room like final thunder. I had won. I had protected my house, my dignity, my right to live my own life. We left the court and Gregory hugged me with tears in his eyes. Arthur would be so proud of you. Thank you, Gregory, for everything. I looked back and saw Jason leaving with Caroline. She was scolding him in a low voice, clearly furious. He walked with slumped shoulders, defeated. Part of me wanted to go over. Part of me was still that mother who wanted to comfort her son. But another part, the part Arthur had tried to strengthen with his actions, stopped me. Jason needed to learn this lesson, and I needed to protect myself. That night, I slept better than I had slept in years. The house no longer felt like a prison. It felt like what it had always been, my home. But I knew Jason wouldn't give up so easily. I knew my son. I knew his pride, and I knew his inability to accept defeat. 2 weeks of absolute silence passed. 2 weeks in which I received not a call, not a message, not a visit. It was as if Jason had disappeared from my life completely, and although part of me felt relieved, another part couldn't help but worry. After all, he was still my son. But then, one afternoon while watering the plants in the garden, I heard familiar voices in the street. I peeked through the fence and saw Jason and Caroline talking to Susan, my neighbor. "We just want you to know we are worried about her," Jason was saying with a voice loaded with fake concern. "We know sometimes she can seem normal, but she has episodes. She forgets things, gets confused with dates, leaves the stove on, lies, all lies. In fact," Caroline continued, "we had to go to court because she didn't understand she needs help. Unfortunately, the judge didn't see what we see every day." Susan looked at me and our eyes met. She had been my neighbor for 15 years. She knew the truth. I saw her expression harden. "I see Mrs. Rosales every day," Susan responded firmly. "And I have never noticed anything you are saying. In fact, I see her more lucid and active than many people in their 50s. Jason forced a smile. Sure. We just wanted you to be aware. In case you notice anything strange, you can call us." When they left, Susan came directly to knock on my door. "Margaret, they are going house to house. They are trying to discredit you with all the neighbors. They say you are mentally ill and can't take care of yourself." Rage invaded me like a hot wave. It wasn't enough for them to have lost in court. Now they wanted to destroy my reputation in the neighborhood where I had lived all my life. "Thank you for telling me, Susan. Don't worry. Everyone here knows you. Nobody is going to believe them." But the damage was already done. Over the next few days, I noticed some neighbors looking at me differently, with pity, with doubt. Jason had planted seeds of mistrust, and although many didn't believe him, some did. I called Gregory immediately. "They are slandering me. Jason and Caroline are going to all my neighbors, making up that I am crazy. That is defamation. We can sue him for damages. But, Margaret, I need to ask you something. How far are you willing to go? Because this can escalate. It can become very public and very ugly." I thought about Arthur, about his letter, about how he had foreseen all this, about how he had left me the tools not only to defend myself, but to teach Jason a lesson he clearly needed to learn. As far as necessary, he crossed the line. It is no longer just about the house. It is about my dignity. Good. Then we are going to fight back. But we will do it smartly. Gregory had a plan. First, he sent legal letters to Jason and Caroline, warning them to cease the defamation immediately or face a lawsuit. Second, he scheduled a meeting with the closest neighbors to present all the medical documentation, proving my mental clarity. But there was something else Gregory suggested, something that made me nervous, but I knew was necessary. "Margaret, we need to show Jason that you are not the helpless victim he thinks. We need him to see that you have resources, power, and the capacity to destroy him legally if he continues. It is time to reveal the additional properties. Are you sure?" "Completely. He thinks you are desperate, that you only have this old house and a miserable pension. When he sees you have over $500,000 in properties and income he knew nothing about, he will understand he played against the wrong person." So Gregory organized what he called a show of force. He scheduled an appointment with Jason in his office, under the pretext of discussing a family settlement that could avoid further legal problems. Jason arrived with Caroline, both with expressions of false humility. Clearly, they thought I had given in, that I was looking to make peace. When they entered the office and saw me sitting next to Gregory with a folder of documents in front of me, their confidence faltered slightly. "Thank you for coming," Gregory began with a professional tone. "Mrs. Rosales wanted to speak with you regarding her financial situation." "Look, Mom," Jason rushed to speak. "If it is about the house, we can forget everything. We don't need to sell it if you don't want to. We just want you to be okay." "Lies. Always lies," I said with a calm voice. "I want to show you something." I opened the folder and took out the deeds to the 2 properties Arthur had bought. I placed them on the desk in front of him. "What is this?" he asked with confusion. "Properties. 2 condos on the north side. Your father bought them years ago as an investment." Currently, they are worth approximately $400,000, and they generate $3,000 a month in rent. I saw the color drain from Jason's face, how his hands shook slightly as he took the documents to review them. That isn't possible. Dad never. You never. Your father was very smart, and I, contrary to what you think, am not a poor, desperate old woman who needs to sell her house to survive. I took out the bank statements. The $50,000 in cash Arthur had left, plus the accumulated rental income over 3 years. In total, there was over $80,000 in accounts Jason knew nothing about. Additionally, continued Gregory, Mrs. Rosales has pensions and benefits that give her financial stability. She does not need your help. She never needed it. Caroline was the first to react, her voice coming out shrill and full of barely contained rage. And why did you never tell us anything? Why did you make us think you were broke? Because you never asked. I responded simply. You just assumed. You assumed I was poor, that I was vulnerable, that I was easy to manipulate. Jason dropped the papers onto the desk. His expression was a mix of shock, shame, and anger. All this time you made us believe. I didn't make you believe anything. You created your own narrative. A narrative where I was the helpless mother who needed to be saved, or rather, who needed to be stripped of her assets for her own good. This is a betrayal. Caroline practically spat the words. We are your family. We had a right to know. Right. I stood up slowly, feeling all the rage accumulated over months finally finding its voice. Did you have a right? A right to what exactly? To my money? To my properties? To decide about my life? We are your only family, shouted Jason, also standing up. And you treated me like trash. You insulted me, threatened me, tried to have me declared incompetent to steal my house. And now you talk about family rights. The silence that followed was dense and charged with tension. Gregory intervened with a professional voice. Mr. Jason, Mrs. Caroline, the purpose of this meeting is to establish clear boundaries. Mrs. Margaret does not need your financial help, nor your supervision. If you wish to maintain any kind of relationship with her, it will be on her terms, not yours. And if we don't accept those terms... Caroline's voice sounded defiant. Then Gregory pulled out another document. Mrs. Rosales will proceed with a lawsuit for defamation, coercion, and harassment. And believe me, with the evidence we have, you will not only lose, but face significant legal consequences. Jason looked at the documents, then at me, then at Gregory. I could see his mind working, calculating, trying to find some exit. I need to think, he said finally. You have 1 week, replied Gregory. After that, we proceed legally. Jason and Caroline stood up to leave. But before walking out, Jason turned toward me. Why, Mom? Why are you doing this to us? I am not doing anything to you, Jason. I am just protecting myself from what you tried to do to me. I watched them leave. I watched Caroline practically drag Jason out of the office, muttering furiously about lawyers and inheritances and betrayals. When they left, I let myself fall into the chair, trembling. Gregory put a hand on my shoulder. You did very well, Margaret. You were strong. Arthur would be proud. I don't feel strong. I feel destroyed. He is my son, Gregory. My son, I know. But sometimes the greatest love is letting someone face the consequences of their actions. That is the only way they can learn. That night I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned in bed, reliving every moment of the meeting. The look of shock on Jason's face, the rage in Caroline's eyes, and for the first time in months, I wondered if I was doing the right thing. But then I remembered the recordings, the humiliations, the insults, the attempt to have me declared mentally incompetent, and I knew I had no other choice but to protect myself. What I didn't expect was what happened 2 days later. I was making coffee when my phone began to ring non-stop. Calls from unknown numbers, messages from people I didn't know. I opened one of the social media apps Jason had helped me install months ago, and what I saw froze my blood. Caroline had made a video where she was crying in front of the camera, with Jason sitting beside her with a pained expression. We need to share our story, Caroline said with a broken voice. Because there are elderly people being manipulated by unscrupulous lawyers and nobody talks about it. Jason's mother, who is 71 years old, is being controlled by a lawyer who convinced her to cut us completely out of her life. I couldn't believe it. They were flipping the story, playing the victims. For years, Jason continued in the video. We took care of my mother. We took her to the doctor, did her grocery shopping, spent time with her, and suddenly, this lawyer showed up and filled her head with ideas. She accuses us of horrible things, says we wanted to steal from her when we only wanted to help her. Caroline sobbed dramatically. He won't even let us see her, threatens us with lawsuits, all because we discovered she has properties and money this lawyer is controlling. It is elder abuse, and nobody is doing anything. The video had thousands of views. The comments were brutal. Poor guys. Those lawyers are vultures. This is terrible. Someone should investigate that lawyer. Children always suffer when there is inheritance involved. My hands shook as I kept reading. Jason and Caroline had created a perfect narrative. They were the devoted children. I was the manipulated old woman. Gregory was the greedy villain. I called Gregory immediately. I saw it, he said before I could speak. It is already circulating everywhere. This is digital warfare, Margaret, and we need. How? I don't even know how to use these apps well. I do. And I also know that the truth is our best weapon. Are you willing to tell your story? Publicly? Show the evidence? My first instinct was to say no, that this was private, family business, shameful. But then I thought about all the people watching that video. All those people believing Jason and Caroline's lies. All those people thinking I was a senile old woman being manipulated. Yes, I am willing. Gregory arrived at my house that same afternoon with a small crew. A camera, lights, a microphone. He sat me in the living room, in my favorite chair, with Arthur's photo visible in the background. Just tell your story. Honest, direct, no drama. The truth is always more powerful than elaborate lies. I took a deep breath and looked at the camera. My name is Margaret Rosales. I am 71 years old, and I want to tell you the truth about what is happening. I spoke for nearly 20 minutes. I told everything. How Jason and Caroline had started pressuring me to sell the house as soon as Arthur died. The increasingly aggressive visits, the insults, the threats to abandon me, the attempted conservatorship, the lies they told the neighbors. My husband Arthur, may he rest in peace, left me protected. Not because he was distrustful, but because he loved me. And it turns out he was right to worry. I showed the medical documents, the evaluations proving my mental lucidity. I played parts of the recordings, the ones that weren't too painful to listen to. I am not a confused old woman being manipulated. I am a woman defending herself from the abuse of her own son. And if sharing this publicly can help even one person in a similar situation, then the shame is worth it. I finished the video with tears in my eyes, but with a steady voice. Jason, if you are watching this, I want you to know that I still love you. I will always love you, but I am not going to allow you to destroy me. Not anymore. Gregory uploaded the video that same night, and what happened next was something I never imagined. In less than 2 hours, the video had more views than Jason and Caroline's. Comments began to arrive by the hundreds, by the thousands. This lady is a warrior. What a disgraceful son. He should be ashamed. My mother went through something similar. Thank you for raising your voice. Abusers always play the victim when they get caught. But not all comments were positive. Some defended Jason. Some said I was lying, that it was an act, that Gregory had manipulated me to make the video. And then began what Gregory called the video war. Jason and Caroline made another video, this time more aggressive. They showed old photos of when Jason was a child, of happy family moments, trying to prove he had always been a good son. My mother is sick, Jason said, with manufactured tears. And this lawyer has her so confused she doesn't even recognize the love of her own family. I responded with another video, this time showing text messages Jason had sent me. Cruel messages where he called me stubborn, selfish, where he threatened to abandon me if I didn't sell the house. People began to pick sides. Some supported me fervently. Others defended Jason with equal passion. Social media became a battlefield where strangers argued about my life as if it were a TV show. It was then that something unexpected happened. Someone found Caroline at a mall. A group of people who had seen the videos recognized her and began to confront her. "Why do you abuse your mother-in-law? Leave Mrs. Rosales alone, gold digger. She just wants her money." Someone recorded the incident and uploaded it to the networks. In the video, Caroline could be seen trying to escape while people followed her shouting. She shouted back, furious, saying things that only worsened her image. "You guys don't know anything. That old woman has more money than she needs and we have nothing. It is unfair." That single sentence destroyed whatever credibility they had left. Because it made it clear it wasn't about my well-being. It was about the money. It had always been about the money. Caroline's video went viral for completely opposite reasons than she would have wanted. People tore her apart in the comments. They called her greedy, abusive, manipulative. Jason tried to do damage control with another video, but it was already too late. Public opinion had turned completely against them. Gregory called me that night. "Margaret, this has gotten out of control. There are reporters wanting to interview you. There are news pages sharing the story. This is bigger than we anticipated. What should I do? You can withdraw now, delete everything, and go back to privacy. Or you can move forward and use this platform for something bigger. To talk about elder abuse, about family manipulation, about property rights. There are thousands of people in your situation who could benefit from hearing your story." I thought about Arthur, about his letter. "Don't use this to hurt him. Use it only to protect yourself." But this had already gone beyond protection. This had turned into something public, into something that was affecting Jason and Caroline in ways I never imagined. "I want to talk to Jason," I said finally. "Before this goes any further, I want to give him a chance to end this civilly." "Are you sure? After everything that has happened?" "He is my son, Gregory. And before destroying him completely, I need to try one more time." Gregory organized a meeting, neutral, in his office, with him present as mediator. Jason agreed to come, but insisted Caroline also be present. The meeting was scheduled for Tuesday at 4 p.m. I arrived early, nervous, hands sweating and heart beating wildly. Gregory offered me water, coffee, but I refused everything. I just wanted this to end one way or another. Jason and Caroline arrived exactly on time. They looked different, tired. Jason had deep circles under his eyes and had lost weight. Caroline had her hair up in a messy ponytail. No makeup, so different from the perfectly groomed woman she used to be. "Thank you for coming," Gregory began once we were all seated. "We had no choice," replied Caroline bitterly. "We are being destroyed online. Jason lost his job. I got fired too. Clients don't want to work with those who abuse the elderly. Our landlord asked us to vacate the apartment because other tenants are complaining. We are being harassed in the street." "That was never my intention," I said sincerely. "No." Jason looked up for the first time, his eyes red and swollen. "Then why did you upload those videos? Why did you expose us publicly? You did it first. You were the ones who decided to take this to social media with lies. I only defended my truth. Your truth is costing us everything." Jason's voice cracked. "Everything, Mom. Our jobs, our home, our reputation. People recognize us on the street and insult us. Yesterday someone spat on me as if I were trash." I watched tears run down his cheeks and felt my heart break. Because despite everything, he was still my son. The boy I had raised, comforted in his nightmares, applauded for every achievement. "Jason," my voice came out soft. "All this could have been avoided if you had simply respected me from the beginning." "I respected you," he exploded, hitting the table with his palm. "Everything I did was because I worried about you. No, everything you did was because you wanted my money. Be honest, at least now. With yourself, if not with me." There was a long, heavy silence. Jason looked at the table, his shoulders shaking. Finally, he spoke with a voice barely audible. "We were desperate. We had debts, a lot of debts, credit cards, loans, almost $80,000 in total, and every month was worse. Caroline wanted things. I wanted to give her those things, and simply, we drowned." Caroline looked at him with anger. "Don't blame me. You also wanted the new car, the expensive vacations, because you wouldn't stop comparing us to your friends. with their successful husbands and their houses and their perfect lives. I watched them fight amongst themselves and understood something I should have seen a long time ago. They weren't bad people by nature. They were weak people who had made bad decisions. And instead of facing the consequences, they had decided I was the easy solution. Enough, I interrupted. You are both adults. You both made decisions, and you both decided I was the answer to your problems instead of working on yourselves. You are our mother, Jason said with desperation. Parents are supposed to help their children. Helping is not the same as being exploited. Helping is voluntary. It comes from love. What you tried was robbery disguised as filial concern. Gregory intervened. Mrs. Margaret asked me to organize this meeting because, despite everything, she wants to give you a chance. One last chance to resolve this without further damage. But she needs to hear the truth, the whole truth. And she needs real apologies, not justifications. Jason looked directly at me for the first time in the entire meeting. I saw something in his eyes I hadn't seen in months, something resembling real shame. I am sorry, Mom. His voice broke completely. You are right. It wasn't out of concern. It was for the money. I saw that house and thought it was the solution. I thought you didn't need it, that you were clinging to the past for no reason. And I convinced Caroline it was the right thing. We convinced each other we were helping you, when in reality we were using you. It was the first time he admitted the truth without excuses, without justifications. And when I discovered you had more money than I thought, I felt betrayed, as if you had been lying to me. But the truth is, it was never my money. I never had a right to know. And I acted like a spoiled child when I didn't get what I wanted. Tears were running freely down his face now. Caroline was also crying silently beside him. The conservatorship attempt was my idea, continued Jason. I thought if a judge declared you couldn't make decisions, I could control everything. Sell the house, access the money, pay off our debts. It was calculated. It was cruel. And it was unforgivable. I felt my own tears begin to fall. The videos on social media were my last desperate attempt to regain some control, to play the victim when clearly I was the aggressor. And when everything blew up in our face, when we lost everything, I finally understood what I had done to you. The pain I caused you. He stood up and knelt in front of me, something that surprised me completely. Mom, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know what I did is unforgivable, but I need you to know I am sorry. I am sorry more than words can express, not for the consequences we face, but for the damage I caused you, because you gave me everything and I repaid you with betrayal. I looked at him kneeling there, this 38-year-old man who had been my baby, my boy, my son, and I felt something break inside me. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was the beginning of something, a crack in the armor of pain I had built around my heart. Stand up, Jason. He obeyed, wiping his tears with the back of his hand. Your father loved you deeply. You knew that. Jason nodded, unable to speak. When we adopted you, when I held you in my arms for the first time, I told Arthur you were perfect, that you were exactly what we had been waiting for, and he cried with happiness. Your father, that strong and stoic man, cried because we were finally a family. Mom. But Arthur was also practical, wise, and at some point, he saw something, a weakness in you, a tendency to take shortcuts, to look for easy solutions, and he worried about what would happen when he was no longer around to guide you. I took Arthur's letter out of the bag I had brought, the letter I had read dozens of times in recent weeks. That is why he did all this, not because he didn't trust you, but because he knew you. He knew your weaknesses as only a father can know them, and he protected me because he knew I wouldn't have the strength to do it alone. I handed him the letter. Read it. Jason took the letter with shaking hands. Caroline leaned in to read over his shoulder. I watched their expressions change as they read Arthur's words. Shock, pain, shame, understanding. When they finished, Jason let the letter drop onto the table and covered his face with his hands, sobbing openly. He knew, Dad knew I would do this. And still he loved me. Still he worked to protect you from me. Your father loved you until his last breath. But he also loved me. And he understood that sometimes love is not enough to change people. Sometimes people have to face consequences to learn. Gregory spoke softly. Jason, Caroline, Mrs. Margaret is willing to drop the pending lawsuits. She is willing to publish a video asking people to stop harassing you. But there are conditions. Whatever it is, said Jason immediately. First, you must both seek professional help, individual and couples therapy. You need to work on your real problems instead of looking for external solutions. Both nodded. Second, you must make a public video admitting the truth. No excuses, no justifications, a real apology. Jason hesitated only a second before nodding again. And third, I continued, I need space. No daily calls. No constant visits. When I am ready, if I am ever ready, I will contact you. But for now, I need to heal. And if you are never ready, Caroline's voice was barely a whisper, then you will live with that consequence. Because actions have consequences. Caroline, you are facing yours. Jason and Caroline kept their end of the bargain. 3 days later, they posted a video. There were no excuses this time. No elaborate justifications. Just the raw, painful truth. We were wrong, Jason said in front of the camera, eyes red but voice steady. We tried to manipulate my mother to get her money. We lied about her mental health. We tried to take her house. And when she defended herself, we played the victims. Everything we said before was a lie. My mother is not being manipulated. She is being strong. And we were the abusers. Caroline spoke too, with genuine tears this time. I apologize to Mrs. Rosales publicly. I apologize to all the people we deceived with our lies, and I ask everyone to stop harassing us not because we deserve compassion, but because we want the chance to be better people. The video went viral for completely different reasons than the previous ones. Some applauded their honesty. Others said it was too little, too late. But eventually, the harassment subsided. People found other dramas to focus on. I also posted a final video. I want to thank everyone who supported me during this difficult time. Your words of encouragement meant more than you can imagine. Jason and Caroline made terrible mistakes, but they are trying to make amends. I ask you to give them space to heal and grow. And to everyone going through similar situations, I want to tell you that you are not alone. That you have rights, that you deserve respect regardless of your age, and that it is never too late to stand up for yourself. I closed all my social media accounts after that. I no longer needed that platform. I no longer needed to fight public battles. I had said what I needed to say. The following months were quiet, peaceful. I dedicated myself to my garden, to my books, to the small joys of life I had forgotten while under constant pressure. The flowers I had planted in the flower bed where Arthur had buried my future began to bloom. White roses, like the ones he used to plant. Gregory became a close friend, visiting me every 2 weeks to have tea and chat. He kept me informed about legal matters, but mostly we talked about Arthur, about the old days, about life. Jason got a new job, he told me one afternoon. Nothing fancy, but honest. They are going to therapy as promised. The therapist says they are making real progress. I am glad to hear it. Do you plan to contact him one day? I don't know, Gregory. Honestly, I don't know. Part of me misses my son, but another part cannot forget what he tried to do to me. It is natural. Forgiveness doesn't have to be immediate. Sometimes it takes years, and sometimes it never comes. Both options are valid. Almost a year passed before I finally made a decision. It was Arthur's birthday, a date that had always been difficult for me. I was sitting in the garden, next to the white roses, when I felt clarity. I called Jason. He answered on the second ring, his voice fearful. Mom. Hello, Jason. There was a silence loaded with emotion. I miss you, he said finally, his voice breaking. I miss you too. The son we raised, the boy you were. I don't know if that Jason still exists. I am trying to find him, Mom. Every day. In therapy, at my job, in my marriage. I am trying to be the man Dad hoped I would be. That is all I can ask of you. Can we see each other? When you are ready. No pressure, no expectations. Just see each other. I thought about Arthur. In his letter, do it with love, always with love. Coffee. Next Thursday. At that place near the park we used to go to when you were a kid. I'll be there. Thursday arrived faster than I expected. I got ready carefully, nervous as if it were a first date. I arrived early and ordered my usual coffee. Jason arrived exactly on time, with flowers in his hands. White roses. I saw them and thought of Dad, he said as he sat across from me. He would have appreciated them. We talked for 2 hours. It wasn't easy. There were awkward moments, heavy silences, emotions on the surface. But there was also connection, little glimpses of the son I remembered, the boy I had loved with all my heart. I don't expect you to forgive me, Jason said as we got ready to leave. I just hope someday you can trust me again, even a little bit. Forgiveness isn't asked for, Jason. It is earned, little by little, day by day, with consistent actions, not with words. I know, and I am going to earn it. I promise you. I don't know if our relationship will ever be what it was. Probably not. Too much damage was done. Too many words were said. But maybe we can build something new, something more honest, more balanced, healthier. I sold one of the properties Arthur had left me. Not because I needed to, but because I wanted to travel. I wanted to see the world I had put off for years while raising Jason, while caring for Arthur in his illness, while surviving grief. I visited places I had only seen in photographs. I made friends in senior travel groups. I discovered parts of myself I had forgotten existed. And every night, wherever I was, I whispered the day's experiences to Arthur. Jason and Caroline divorced eventually. It turned out that without the constant financial pressure and without the common goal of getting my money, they didn't have much else keeping them together. Jason took it with surprising maturity. It was for the best, he told me when he told me. We were toxic together. We pushed each other to be the worst versions of ourselves. He met someone new a couple of years later. A woman named Danielle, an elementary school teacher, down to earth and with no interest in my money. In fact, when Jason finally introduced her to me, she told me something I will never forget. Mrs. Rosales. Jason told me everything. What he did, what he tried to do. And I want you to know that if I ever see signs of that behavior again, I will call you myself to warn you, because nobody deserves to be treated like that, especially by their own family. It was in that moment that I began to believe Jason really had changed. Now I am 75. Jason is 42. We have a cautious but genuine relationship. We see each other once a month for coffee or lunch. He never asks me about my money, about my properties, about my will, and I appreciate that respect more than words can express. Did I forgive him completely? That is something I still struggle with. There are days I see the boy he was and my heart melts. There are days I remember his cruel words and feel resentment. But I am learning that forgiveness isn't a switch that turns on or off. It is a process, continuous, complicated, personal. Arthur was right about everything, about protecting me, about preparing me, about loving me enough to see beyond his own death. And although I miss my husband every day, I feel his presence in every decision I take, in every boundary I establish, in every moment I choose to respect myself. My house, the house Jason tried to take from me, remains my home. But I no longer see it as a prison of memories. I see it for what it is, a sanctuary I earned the right to keep. The white roses bloom every spring in the flower bed where I found my future buried, and every time I see them, I remember the final words of Arthur's letter. I do not regret adopting him. I only regret not understanding sooner that kindness should never be practiced at the cost of self-destruction. Those words became my mantra, my reminder that loving someone doesn't mean allowing them to destroy you. That being good doesn't mean being weak. That establishing boundaries isn't cruelty, it is survival. And if my story can help even one person understand that, to defend themselves, to value themselves, then every tear, every battle, every painful moment was worth it. Because in the end, this was never about the house. It was never about the money. It was about dignity, about respect, about the right of a woman to live her final years in peace, without being stripped bare by those who are supposed to love her. And that right, finally, I reclaimed.